Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Finance Zone. Today we're going to be talking about how Donald Trump built his billion-dollar empire. Make sure you stay as you do not want to miss on this valuable information. Also, remember to subscribe and click on the notification bell. Donald Trump may claim to be a real estate mogul, but the bulk of his net worth comes from his brand value, which he began building in the 1980s. The young businessman did regular TV interviews and was vocal during the 1988 Republican primaries. In the 1980s, the Trump Organization began to license the Trump name to other companies, accelerating its prominence globally. Today, many Trump brands pay licensing fees to use the name and are not owned by the Trump Organization, including the Trump Ocean Club and Trump Fine Foods. In 1987, when he published The Art of the Deal, his celebrity climbed even higher. Mr. Trump solidified his reputation as a straight-talking negotiator with his decade-long run as the host of The Apprentice, where his crass remarks and public firing of potential employees, often on apparent whim, earned him legions of fans. How is his business attitude? Like his father, Mr. Trump has a reputation for saving every penny possible. He has called it a smart business move to withhold payments on contracts when he does not like the work, forcing the other side to negotiate a lower rate. He told Reuters he renegotiates contracts 10% to 15% of the time. "I fight like hell to pay as little as possible," he said. Mr. Trump's fight-like-hell style has led to several well-publicized legal battles. He is facing a lawsuit over Trump University and has been sued in the past by a former employee and union pension funds. He has also used lawsuits as a tool. He sued a former Miss USA contestant for criticizing the pageant he owned. He sued Deutsche Bank for refusing to give him a loan extension on a building project in Chicago. Despite these battles, he's often praised for his business sense. Speaking on BBC Radio 4, Piers Morgan called Mr. Trump a smart guy. "I think from a business perspective, he runs pretty good businesses, and he tends to put very smart people in charge of them," said Mr. Morgan. Activist investor Carl Icahn, who Mr. Trump has suggested would make a good Treasury Secretary, has said the front-runner is a very open-minded guy. "He's got a strong ego, he believes in himself, and he's willing to listen," says Mr. Icahn. Trump's family fortune. Father's legacy. In October, the frontrunner told voters that his father gave him a small loan of $1 million to get started. Trump not only got his financing, but his business style from his father. Fred Trump started a $1 million residential real estate business in Brooklyn and Queens. He was known for building quality. Many of his buildings are still standing and pinching every penny possible. He typically came under budget on government-funded projects and pocketed the difference as a profit, a practice that, though legal, got him called before Congress. While Donald Trump claims it was his decision to switch from building low-income housing in New York's outer boroughs to luxury towers in Manhattan, Ms. Blair says the candidate's father was the likely force behind the move. Donald Trump relied on his father's resources. He needed his father to co-sign his loans and relied on his banking and political connections, says Ms. Blair. Fred Trump never saw a tax break he didn't take advantage of, and Donald was at his elbow learning, says Gwenda Blair, author of The Trumps. Donald Trump's father, Fred, was an acclaimed real estate developer who built and sold middle-class housing for families in New York City during World War II. Once Donald graduated college, he joined the business and began making connections in New York City. Rather than middle-class housing, Donald focused his development on lavish developments in Manhattan. With millions of dollars in loans, as well as other financial guidance from his father, he was able to purchase his first big piece of real estate, the Commodore Hotel. From there, Trump developed famous projects such as the company's headquarters, Trump Tower, an apartment and retail building, Trump Plaza, as well as the famous casino hotels like the former Trump Taj Mahal. The company met a financial crisis in the early 1990s that eventually led to the relinquishment of numerous properties. The development aspects of Trump's business career resulted in 6 corporate bankruptcies, including those from the Trump Castle Hotel and Casino and Trump Entertainment Resorts. Despite the bankruptcies, Trump's name was rising in prominence. Real estate holdings. Trump's numerous real estate holdings are by far the most lucrative aspects of his career, along with branding and licensing deals. According to a study by Forbes, Trump's New York City real estate holdings total roughly $1.5 billion, while non-New York City real estate accounted for $500 million. Club facilities and residential properties provide additional lofty income. Trump generates over $70 million in condo sales and $40 million in rental income every year. Some of his completed estates include the historic estate Mar-a-Lago, Trump Park Avenue, and the Trump International Hotel, Las Vegas. Trump also owns several golf courses, a Trump winery, and operates the Woolman Skating Rink and the Carousel in Central Park. Many of his holdings are international. Branding and licensing. Trump's name is on numerous buildings he doesn't own. Developers pay to license Trump's name around the world, and this endeavor contributes $180 million to Trump's net worth, according to Forbes. Some of these branding deals include the Trump Soho, Trump Palace, and the Trump Park condominiums in Manhattan. These buildings span across the entire U.S., along with properties in Indonesia and Turkey. The words, "You're fired," became a common catchphrase in the 2000s with the airing of The Apprentice. On this NBC show, Trump interviewed driven contestants for a managerial position at one of his companies. According to a report from the New York Times, Trump reported that he pocketed a total of $213 million over the show's 11-year run. Trump has become more than a household name and far more than a celebrity. He has become a brand. Here is a breakdown of Forbes' most recent estimate. Commercial real estate, $1.2 billion. Much of Trump's wealth is tied to a handful of multi-use buildings in Manhattan, including 125,000 square feet of retail real estate in the usually busy Midtown district. With the coronavirus keeping would-be shoppers at home, the value of those properties has taken a big hit. Commercial properties that were worth roughly $1.9 billion before the pandemic are now valued at $1.2 billion. Residential real estate, $148 million. Trump's vast real estate empire includes approximately 500 residential units throughout the United States. While it's difficult to appraise those with precision, Forbes lowered its valuation of those units from $235 million to $148 million this spring, in part based on the lower stock price of publicly traded companies that operate in the same sector. Hospitality, $38 million. Times have been tough for the hoteliers around the country, and the Trump Organization is no exception. The company's hospitality holdings, including the Trump International Hotel down the street from the White House, are now valued at $38 million. Before COVID-19 took hold, the projected value was $107 million. Hotel licensing and management, $42 million. When you're as famous as Donald Trump, you don't need to put money on the line in order to make money on real estate. You can also license your last name to other developers who want to plaster it on their own buildings. As of 2017, the Trump Organization had no fewer than 50 licensing or management agreements throughout the world, according to the Washington Post. Golf courses, $217 million. The Trump Organization owns a number of exclusive golf properties from Colts Head, New Jersey to Dubai. While players are still able to hit the links at most of those courses, the steep price of membership doesn't make them recession-proof. Forbes put their combined value at $217 million, down from $271 million prior to the coronavirus. Other properties, $295 million. Some of the president's exclusive clubs are holding up fairly well despite an economy that's hobbling along. Mar-a-Lago is valued more like a billionaire's trophy than an operating business, which seems to shield the impact of the current downturn, writes Dan Alexander of Forbes. Cash, $160 million. Among rainy day funds, the president's isn't too shabby. Forbes approximates that Trump held $160 million in cash even before the health crisis. In a year where property values and stocks have been beaten up, it's one asset class that hasn't lost value. Success. Because he runs a complex, privately owned enterprise, getting an accurate readout on Donald Trump's net worth is all but an impossible task. One thing is for sure, though. The president's past claims about his net worth, even in the pre-coronavirus days, seem to be widely inflated. A more recent analysis by Forbes put his current fortune at just over $2 billion, after losing his net worth of $5 billion becoming president. Thanks for watching. While you're here, go ahead and click one of these 2 videos on your screen. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. See you there, and thanks for watching.